When I first met you, Ebony, you were wearing a Spock skirt. You had made.
Yeah, that I made. And I was just learning how to sew. And in fact, this is, what, 10 years ago now. I have not gotten any better. So that box skirt remains probably the highlight. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Star Trek Discovery Recap FREQcast. Anita's stuck in the Gamma Quadrant tonight fighting off the board, so I've got a reserve officer from Starfleet Medical to help me unpack tonight's episode of Star Trek Discovery. She is a slightly delusional Star Trek fangirl and an international spy with clearly no sense of discretion since she told me she was an international spy. Welcome, Francine, everybody. Francine, how you doing?
I'm fine, hiding in plain sight.
Girl, whatever you need to tell yourself. You need to explore a new career change. So, listen, I have been friends with Francine for a long time. We got to know each other through Star Trek fandom. And so I've been wanting to have her on the Recap FREQcast forever. Finally figured out a way to make it happen. Anita is off breeding tribbles. This is our week. I fully expect people will fall in love with you the way that I have fallen in love with you. And they'll be like, Ebony, you need to not be on this show anymore. Anita and Francine needs to host it. Too bad, people. That's not going to happen. This is my show.
Oh, now, you're sweet.
Okay, so before we head down to 10 Forward for a tasty tipple of Vulcanale, I want to remind everyone that we can only keep delivering these piping hot Star Trek takes to the airwaves thanks to your support. So please pitch in a few bucks at d.rip/femfreak to help us keep making all of our great podcasts. On this week's show, we'll be giving you our thoughts about Point of Light, episode number 3 of Star Trek Discovery's second season. The official recap for the show reads, a surprise visitor to the USS Discovery brings shocking news about Spock and dredges up past regrets from Burnham. Following the asteroid incident, Tilly struggles to keep a grip on her reality. L'Rell's authority on Kronos is threatened. Francine, you just finished watching the episode. I just finished watching the episode.
Yeah.
Tell me what you thought.
What did I think? Okay, so my level 1 diagnostic of this was
smooth segue. Thank you. I've been trying to get new segment titles into the podcast. Anita hasn't been. She's like, yeah, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work. And I'm like, the people gonna love it. So shout out. Okay.
So it was a very busy episode.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So there were how many different plot lines? I think 4. We had Tilly with her hella annoying ghost.
Yes.
We had Tyler and L'Rell.
Uh-huh.
We had Amanda and Burnham.
Yep. And then at the end, Giorgio, Section 31.
Giorgio, Section 31.
And recruiting Tyler. Yeah, I also felt like there was quite a lot going on in this episode, and I wasn't entirely sure that it was all stitched together cohesively.
Right. And don't forget the 7 signals and the Red Angels also running undercurrent with this as well. So
let me ask you this.
Uh-huh.
Do you tend to prefer, and let me back up. Whenever we have a special guest on a show of which I am part, inevitably, I will get comments from people saying, Ebony, you talk too much and you need to let your guest talk more. And I'm like, I know, but I just get so excited. So I want you, Francine, my good friend, to feel free to talk over me in a way that perhaps other special guests do not. I don't even know where I was going at that point. I interrupted myself and completely derailed my train of thought. Oh, what I was going to ask you was, do you tend to prefer, and I'm talking specifically about Star Trek now, do you tend to prefer one-off kind of like self-contained episodes, or are you digging kind of like the longer season-long narrative arcs? Like if you were to, if you had to choose, which do you tend to prefer?
You know, I see. I can't answer that because I like both. I
Hmm.
liked the standalone episodes of the original series, but I also like the long, dark conspiracies of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, same.
And you do need a little bit of a arc for characters. Um, and it can be difficult to do that in little standalone episodes. Um, but I can't decide what I like better, standalone or the story arc. In the first season of Discovery, um, there wasn't. I mean, there was a story arc, but it wasn't. It didn't overwhelm the entire series. Like I sense these first three episodes of the second season of Discovery, um, it is heavily a story arc at this point. First season, lots of little standalone episodes. I mean, we had the running theme of the Klingon War, um, and I really loved the alternate universe. Uh, but it still didn't feel like, a super heavy uh, arc that you had to follow super closely. And if you missed something, um, you were going to get lost. I have a sense this season, at least with these first three episodes, actually, um, got to pay attention. I'm going to have to watch this third episode again because I know I missed a few things.
I'm already thinking that I need to go back to the first episode
Hmm.
of this season. In fact, I definitely, girl, okay, I'm the worst, like week by week, I just let, stuff dissipate from my brain.
Hmm.
And so I definitely need to go back at least to episode one and just remind myself what was going on with like Burnham's hallucination of the Red Angel. But also, I have so little memory of the ending of season one apart from the amazing costuming of the Mirror Universe.
Oh my God.
That every time they mention Seven Signals this season, I'm like, wait, what? Oh, right, okay. And I have to remind myself what it is. But you know what? Like I jumped into this. I jumped into this too quick. I think it will be useful for people who don't know you, i.e., everyone who's not me listening in, for us to talk a little bit about your history with Star Trek fandom. Your favorite of the series, if that's not too much like trying to ask somebody who their favorite child is. Um, but because I think it will give us some like necessary context for the discussion to come about Discovery, because both you and I are, and Anita is too, the missing Anita, hardcore Star Trek fans, but your level of fandom makes mine looks amateurish, like you go deep
Well,
in
I
a
do.
way.
I go deep in story. I go deep in character.
And you've
I
been doing this for a while, so tell us a little bit about your history with the fandom
Oh,
and
okay.
where you are.
So, I'm old enough to have watched Star Trek in the '70s. I'm not quite old enough to have seen it when it was first run, but I did see it during the what do they call it? Reruns. Oh gosh,
Like
reruns.
the initial syndication.
The initial syndication, yes.
Yo, when we used
And
to have to like wait for stuff on a certain day of the week, a certain time, you couldn't just call it up. Stream it, children.
ex-
There was commercials. You had to sit through them shits.
exactly. And I'm a military kid, so I spent a lot of time in the Pacific Islands, and so on the base, sometimes we only had one or two channels, so it was always and Star Trek was on quite a lot. Maybe it wasn't on quite a lot, but in my memory, in my little child's mind, I watched Star Trek a lot. So anyway, my mom was actually the big Star Trek fan. And since I loved anything my mother loved, I liked Star Trek too. And as I got older, it went off the air. I was an undergrad when Next Gen came on. And I was determined not to watch it because I was so loyal to the original series.
Uh-huh.
And there were no Vulcans on
Yeah.
Next Generation. And once I um, graduated and started working and got in the world, I started watching Next Generation in syndication. And by then, it was the dominoes of all of the new Star Trek series, after Next Gen, then
Hmm.
came Deep Space Nine, and around the same time or very soon after came Voyager, and then a few years went by, came Enterprise. So, um, is that answering the question? I have a long history. I think with Star Trek goes back really, literally 50 years. I
Hmm.
write fan fiction. I was experiencing a terrible writer's block when my mother passed away suddenly a little over a decade ago. And my husband at the time couldn't console me, but he knew I liked this very strange space show. He's from a third world country, so he didn't know Star Trek for nothing. And he bought the DVDs for me. And the music, the colors, the sound, I hadn't watched the original series in 20 years. And what it called up for me was the time that I spent with my mother sitting on the couch watching the show as a very small child. And so I just started getting back into it. It was a way to soothe my grief. It was a way to break through that terrible writer's block because I started writing fan fiction. I had not heard of fan fiction ever, even when I started watching the show again. And I knew that there was this thing that I needed to do to, um, I was so completely obsessed with the show, in particular the original series, but I didn't know what to do with that and where to put it. And then I heard about fan fiction and started reading fan fiction, and like 99% of it was horrible. And I thought
Hmm.
I could do that. So I started writing. And so I thought, I didn't start writing because I thought, oh, I can do better than that. But I thought, I like this. The universe is all set for you. The characters are all set. And for someone with writer's block, that was a godsend. And I was always in love with Spock. I always thought Uhura was the most beautiful woman in the world. And I always thought that they should be together. And so in my fiction, I put them together.
Yeah.
And so that's what I write on my blog. I haven't posted any stories since Leonard Nimoy died. It was so sad.
Yeah.
Um, but
Press pause on the podcast, people, and pour a little out for the man. No one did it better.
nobody did it better. Yeah, loved him. When I first met you, Ebony, you were wearing a Spock skirt. You had made.
Yeah, that I made. That I made. And I was just learning how to sew. And in fact, this is, what, 10 years ago now?
Yeah.
I have not gotten any better.
Oh
So
my
that Spock skirt remains probably the highlight. I got my picture taken with Mr. Nimoy while I was wearing the Spock skirt, although you can't see it in the photo. But yeah, I mean, like
Did he
I
notice?
found you. Uh, I don't know, but I would be surprised if he did because my affect in that moment was so like I was broadcasting love and like overwhelming devotion. So if he was able to look beyond the whites of my eyes, I would be surprised. Like I was there was nothing else in the room except my just like heart eyes for Mr. Nimoy. But okay, so that's your background. To this day, or rather at this current moment, is the original series still your favorite?
Yes, it is. The original
Mm-hmm.
series, I will ever be loyal to the original series. Again, because I am a huge Spock fangirl. Um, it was the series. I mean, we've never seen anything like it, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of African American women or women of color talk about seeing Nichelle Nichols on the
Yeah.
bridge.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. just as window dressing or as the maid or something that was insulting to the power of women. She was there with the guys, and in general, usually the only woman. She would talk back to the captain if she needed to. She knew her job, and she held her own. And I wanted to be her.
Yeah.
And I haven't really connected with a character like that until Janeway on Voyager. Now, Voyager,
Hmm.
I have to admit, was my least favorite of the series because there were two.
Anita, do you hear that? Anita, I'm not alone. Excuse me, please continue.
No, because they were the least number of characters on there that I actually liked. I only liked like a couple of them. Tuvok, of course, only because he was Vulcan, but he was also a very good Vulcan. But Captain Janeway, on my probably second run through of this series, I started to notice her. And then I went to a Star Trek convention and she was there. It was one of the first times I'd seen her in person. And someone asked her a question, a young woman asked her a question about what she should, you know, uh, how she admired Janeway, and did Kate have any advice to give her on, how to be successful and how, as a woman in a field that was stereotypically male. This young woman wanted to be an engineer or something like that. And the answer that Kate gave was just so profound. I completely fell in love with her. And I tell people all the time that I switched favorite captains from Kirk to Janeway, even though Voyager is not my favorite series.
Interesting.
Yeah, Janeway is my favorite captain because I fell in love with Kate Mulgrew.
Right,
Isn't that interesting?
right.
But but think about it. That little skinny girl with the big boobs and
Hmm.
the big hair, she was pretty badass. And I think that Kate Mulgrew is the same way in real life. It's just gracious
Wow.
and bright and funny and strong. And she talks about how she had to do battle with people over being an actress, and not a stay-at-home mother with her boys.
Hmm.
Even fans would ask these really uncomfortable, borderline sexist questions, on, do you feel badly not staying home with your children? You
Right.
know,
Yeah, I think, there was always that question lurking in the mind, or lurking in the background of the cultural conversation about Janeway as a captain, and that lurks in the background of any conversation about a senior officer in these shows, which is, where is your family? And of course, no one is asking that question about Kirk or Picard or any other senior member of staff that happens to be male, right?
right.
But with a female, it's, why aren't you having children? Or if you do have children, why have you decided to place your career above them? It's the same questions that we ask, women, in real life. But I love that you talked about Uhura, you talked about Janeway, because it's a perfect jumping off point to then head back into this episode, because we do get one of the things that I do love about Discovery. And so listeners to the show will know that Anita and I spend most most weeks peeing ourselves laughing about how much crazy stuff has gone on in these episodes and why it just doesn't work for us.
Uh-huh.
It's rare that we have been enjoying episodes, although we both really loved last week's episode.
Uh-huh.
But one of the things that this show has consistently done well is give us some amazing female characters and be
Yes.
completely unapologetic about it. Like, you look at the bridge crew, you look at Giorgio,
Yes.
you look at Laurel. Like, this show is insistent upon keeping women at the forefront. And I absolutely love that. And I love that it doesn't appear to be changing. And that's actually one of the reasons why, at the end of the show, when we get narrative plot point, number 27 or whatever, with Giorgio recruiting Tyler to be in Section 31, I'm like, oh, like, is Section 31 going to be a big deal this season? How do I feel about that? And my fear is that given what Section 31 represent, which is a sort of covert special ops wing of Starfleet, that the vision of that we're going to get is going to be more testosterone heavy, like more, for lack of a better term, like just more dude. So I hope we don't get that, because I want there to be badass shit on the show. I just don't want it to be only given to the dudes.
Well, see, I'm hoping that Giorgio just sort of keeps that dude heavy thing from happening. I mean, I don't see her letting that happen. And I have some thoughts about Giorgio and what her intentions are. I cannot say her last name, so I'm going to borrow her nickname, which was slightly insulting and diminutive, but I really like it. That Lorca called her Pippa for Philippa.
I like that. Or you can call her the Empress.
The Empress. So let's call her the Empress, because that's who she really is, and that is absolutely not going to change. Fuck Section 31. Fuck the Federation. Yeah. She has already put her mark on L'Rell.
Yo,
okay.
So like she went in there and said she went in there and was like, L'Rell was like, I'm not going to give up my husband. I'm not going to give up my son. And Giorgio was like, yo, did you think I was asking you a question?
Right.
This is not. I'm not offering you choices, homie.
Exactly.
I like. Giorgio came in from the mirror universe, didn't take no naps, didn't fuel up with her Wheaties, just got to work. Okay, it's been like 9 months. And she okay, so she's a member of Section 31, and I have no doubt, absolutely no doubt, that she is using Section 31 for her own ends. Like the notion
my God,
advancing like some higher level Star Trek class. Y'all, if you fell for that, you're dumber than I think.
Oh right, she is definitely she's already got another empire all set up for her, the Klingon Empire. She's already got L'Rell telling her people to call her mother, just like she was like with Burnham.
I fell out.
I know.
I fell out.
Like, oh yeah. So that's another thing she brought over from the Terran universe. And but let me back up too, because the Empress was on for the show for like 7 minutes, and we had 2 severed heads. One thrown in a volcano. And can we talk about the Klingon baby head?
I was so upset because they kept showing that baby head.
Okay, you know what?
I was like, L'Rell, put it back in the drawer. This is not okay. I can't keep looking. And the baby was so cute, So the fact that they had that little doll head,
I couldn't believe it. I was like, okay, first of all, Klingon baby head is the name of my new band. For one thing,
I want to be a bass player.
Okay,
in that
you can
band.
be a bass player for Klingon baby head. But also, as badass and truly evil the Empress is, did you see her making goo eyes at the Klingon baby?
I did.
Okay.
How could you not? That was a cute little gray baby.
Yeah, it was a cute little gray baby, but that was a little out of character for her. So it kind of made me wonder a little bit. But yeah.
Yeah, well, there's that. There also, it was one of the few moments we got this week that harkened back to the kind of lightness of tone and humor that we've been getting for the past 2 episodes. Yes. A lot of folks have talked about the sort of lightening of the tone this season, and there was very little of that in evidence this episode, except for those very small moments like that one with Giorgio. So let's talk about Tilly and May.
Yes.
So last week I talked about it, and Anita mentioned as well that we weren't quite sure where the episode wanted us to fall down on May, because we don't know when we first see her that she's, not really there, that she is a product of Tilly's imagination. We assume she's just another like fun, peppy, cheerful crew member. But then the big reveal that happens when she calls Tilly Stilly,
Mm-hmm.
the lift doors on the bridge close, and you just think, oh shit. I
Right.
mean, there's more than a small moment of terror there where you're like, this is not at all what I thought it was going to be. And so I fully expected the show to go further in that direction, to have May be a kind of malicious force.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what we get, at least not initially in this episode. We do see her kind of tormenting Tilly with her omnipresence, to the point where Tilly is unable to, complete her duties on the bridge during the shadow exercises, and abruptly quits the junior command program. And I was so mad because it took Tilly so much to get there. And right then I was like, man, I'm gonna beat your ass, because Tilly is my favorite character on this
Mine
show.
too. Yes.
You
Uh,
know, but then I was kind of disappointed as we figure out who May actually is.
Annoying, evil poltergeist.
Right. And the show did that thing that drives me absolutely around the bend when this happens in TV show and movies, whereby a character who is behaving in a puzzling way, rather than have someone simply ask them, "What do you want? Why are you doing this?" the script pointedly avoids having that explicit question be asked, and so the reveal can come later,
Right.
right? So May keeps saying, like, no, this is not the plan. Like, now I need a new plan. This is not what I wanted. Come on, Tilly. We need to figure out, how to get what we wanted. At no point do we see Tilly going, wait, what do you want?
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't that help them solve the fucking
Right.
issue if they were just like, May, why are you here?
Exactly.
Why are you
And
here?
why did it take you so long to reveal yourself to me if I was such a good influence on you when you were a child?
Thank
Right?
you.
So,
Thank you. Also, Tilly, why did you not talk to Stamets? If Stamets was like, yo, I was on the spore drive, saw a ghost of my dead husband, but I know that it's not actually a ghost. I know actually I saw him. Once you had your little poltergeist experience, wouldn't Stamets be your first point of call and be like, hey, guess what? Twinsies, I also have a ghost.
yeah, but he did, sort of tell her to leave him alone. So,
Does anyone listen to Stamets on that show?
What'd you say?
I said, does anyone listen to Stamets?
No, they don't.
Do what you want with Stamets. What did May call him? Shorter,
Whiter.
blonder, whiter.
I love
So
Stamets
good.
though. I really enjoyed him last season. I enjoyed his sarcasm and his intellect, and he's just such an interesting looking man. And I'm not sure if he's wearing contacts, because either his eyes are super dark blue or they have these sort of weird contact lenses on him, because they change um, when he's in the spore drive or when he's doing something. But anyway, I like Stamets.
I have no idea. Write into the show and tell us whether Anthony Rapp is wearing contacts or if in fact Francine is seeing things
Might be seeing
on
things.
her bootleg TV that fell off the back of a truck. So, but no, like, so tell me, what were you most interested in this episode? Like, what's sticking with you? I mean, granted, it's only been like an hour and a half since we both finished the episode, but what's sticking with you?
What's sticking with me is how easily manipulated Laurel seems to be. She's easily, maybe not necessarily manipulated, but influenced by her emotions. The other thing that sticks out to me is Cole's treachery. And, Klingons, treachery is not something that's necessarily dishonorable with Klingons, but Klingons wouldn't stab you in the back.
Right.
And I don't feel like it was in character for a Klingon to steal a baby. I think that Cole would have killed Laurel if he wanted to be chancellor versus kidnap her baby and electrocute her and what did they do? He had some weird device that paralyzed her and Tyler. and
yeah, but luckily Giorgio could just,
she knew what to do with
reset
this thing.
it.
Yeah, she just picked it up,
just flip it off, and then undo the damage.
Undo the damage, exactly, magically. So I'm not feeling like the Klingon culture is consistent with what it was actually in the first season, and just Klingon culture in general.
But that's been a consistent problem, or a consistent comment that people have made of Discovery, right? Like, this version of the Klingons seems so different from anything that we've gotten before with the Klingons. I mean, regardless of like the appearance of the Klingons in this show, which is vastly different from any iteration we've seen before. Yeah, the way in which Klingon culture is presented in this show is something quite new. And I don't feel as if the showrunners quite have a handle on what to do with the Klingons and why they're there.
Right.
They are so vitally important, and yet I don't think they really know how to, sort of weave the Klingons into the show or build a show around it. Because, yeah, like you say, it seems just like wildly inconsistent. If you've watched any other version of Star Trek, you're like, I don't recognize this. But even if you have only seen Discovery, the difference between season 1 and season 2 is also jarring. Not least because the Klingons apparently decided to grow their hair back, and they all went down and got some Party City wigs because the things look terrible. They look terrible.
They do, and it was just so convenient, that line where the Klingons have decided to grow their hair back after the war. And I was like, really? Did you have to say that?
Like, it's been, thank you.
Thank
you. And hasn't it only been like 9 months to a year? You didn't get those silky weaves, in 9 months to a year. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Just come on.
Worf's hair grew from one season to the other.
Well, Worf's wig also used to drive me up the wall. I was just like, y'all spend so much money on this show. Can you spend $1.95 more on a legitimate hairline? Because this is fucking with my suspension of disbelief. But anyways, we'll come back to that during this week's hair report. I want to move into, I know we're jumping from plot point to plot point, but that's really what the episode did. Like, there were so many, that's what's going on. Burnham and Amanda. Now, one of the reasons why I was so excited to get you on the show is because, as a Spock historian, I'm gonna get your opinion about something that's been troubling me since the Discovery debuted. Namely, that I think the show would have been better served if Michael Burnham were fostered by a different Vulcan family, not Sarek's family. And here's why. Because he could have been a mentor, she could have been close to Spock growing up. But I think the fact that she, ostensibly grew up in that household makes it hard for me to believe that in the future Star Trek we know, we would never have heard of Spock's foster sister, Michael Burnham, who apparently, via her mutiny, instigated, a huge part of the Federation Klingon War. I'm just like, what? And, several people who are and I want to thank the people who took the time to hit me up on Twitter about this. Several people wrote to me and said, yeah, but what about like Cybok, like Spock's brother? We don't learn about him. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. But I'm not saying that Spock necessarily would have mentioned Michael. I'm saying it strains credulity that no one would ever have like a passing mention would have been made. Like, right. Oh, that's Spock. Ain't that the dude who like his sister kicked off the cliff? Like, it's broken my brain. It has completely broken my brain. But then I also went deep into conspiracy town as if these people actually exist outside of, CBS All Access. And I was like, yo, Spock had them unresolved issues with his sister, this Black human woman. Didn't resolve that shit. That's why he's got to work it out with Uhura. And people are like, Ebony, you are crazy. Ebony, you need to speak to a professional about this. And I was like, but okay, let's leave all that behind. Amanda and Burnham.
Okay. First of all, I'm the woman they have playing Amanda looks very much like Jane Wyatt, the original Amanda Grayson from Journey to Babel. So that's one thing. But I am distracted by how young she looks. Okay.
Same.
So if Spock is around probably 30, Burnham is probably 32, 35. Why does Amanda look like she's 37? Okay. So that's distracting.
Okay. Right. Because she's human. Right. You know, like she's not Vulcan.
Right. She should look older than Burnham, and she doesn't. They look the same age. And I don't quite know what to make of. Amanda in this series feels superfluous, almost. It's almost like they're shoehorning her into the story. I'm just not into her. I mean, I don't know why. I can't speak on it because I ignore her when I'm watching the show. There was another piece. There was a line in the episode where they talk about Burnham running away at some point. And Amanda, I hate when a series or a book, I don't even know what this is called. They throw in a line that explains everything.
Oh God, this show and the ham-fisted exposition in this show, yeah.
I feel like they put Amanda in this episode just to bring up the whole Burnham ran away from home to hide from or avoid the logic extremists, and that is also the reason that Burnham and Spock's relationship is what it is, because she had to distance herself from him. He was her little shadow, she said, and the only way to keep him safe from the logic extremists. I'm trying to remember if that was the terrorist group from the Enterprise series that T'Pol's mother was involved. Do you remember that? This is the very first I've heard of the logic extremists. It sounds ridiculous. Oh, maybe it was.
Yeah.
In the first series.
Season, in the first season of this. Didn't
yes, that one that tried to assassinate Sark. Okay, all right. But whatever. I mean, it felt very ham-fisted to me.
Yeah, I would
and if Amanda is smart enough and slick enough to steal Spock's medical records, how come she's not smart enough to decrypt it? Because did they just have it laying around?
Listen, how about this? If she's smart enough to have stolen those medical records, how was she not smart enough to have picked up on the fact that her two children have apparently been feuding for upwards of 25 years, don't speak to each other, because Spock has essentially written Burnham out of his life, and she's like, this is news to me. I just thought you were both so busy. Bitch, what? Like, this is the first time it's come up? Come on. I mean, but still, I'm not going to lie. When the ship appeared and we expected to be Sark, beaming aboard, the fact that it was not him, but was Amanda, I was low-key grateful for, because I have gone on record as saying, and I know you and I disagree on this, I'm not into this version of Sark. I'm just not. I don't know if it's because nostalgia has colored my perceptions and dictated my expectations of what Sark should be like. That probably is it. I have nothing against that actor. I'm not into this version of Sark. In the same way that I'm not into this version of Pike, and I never will
I
be,
cannot.
And y'all can quit.
I don't like this.
It's
Pike.
not. No.
I am not buying his aw shucks shtick. I play by the rules. I had to follow regulation, and I'm not buying it when the annoying poltergeist, what's Tilly's little ghost's name again? May.
May
Says he's an imposter. I'm like, ooh, another ham-fisted clue. And I'm going to be very upset if we have yet another fake captain on Discovery. Because
I will be too. I will be too, unless that means that we get evil Lorca back. Because as much as that made me holler and break down in hysterics last season, I would not mind having just like evil conniving Lorca back.
I thought Lorca was very interesting, and I hope that we have not seen the last of him. But this Pike, I love Anson Mount, so handsome, very Starfleet looking captain kind of guy. But that, that honest Boy Scout bullshit, I don't like that.
He is a very attractive person. But he's the sort of Starfleet senior officer who would appear as a guest star on an episode and then go away. You know, he wouldn't be the lead in the hypothetical Star Trek series that only shows in my mind, right? Because he does not have the kind of magnetic energy or charisma that all Star Trek captains to date have had, even ones that I was not particularly drawn to. Like, I'm not interested in Voyager, but nevertheless, I recognize that when Janeway is on screen, I'm watching Janeway. Right. And when she gives a command, like, yes, that is the voice of command. In the same way that I believed Picard as a captain, you know, I believed Kirk as a captain. I believed in Sisko as a commander. I don't see that from Pike. He just seems too much like a fill-in, which is, you know, literally what he is. And I just don't buy that he has an air of command. And so he seems superfluous, you know, ancillary to requirements. Like, put Saru back in the captain's chair.
You know, it would serve Pike better if he were back on the Enterprise and we saw him occasionally as they are trying to figure out the Seven Signals, which is actually the title of the album, the first album of the Klingon Babyheads. The Seven Signals.
Nice,
you like that?
Nice, man. We're gonna sell so many records, and then the band is gonna break up, and they'll do like a "Where Are They Now?"
Yes.
And they'll do like a "Searching for Sugarman"
documentary. I call dibs on being found behind a dumpster.
All right. Well, if that's the way you want to go out, I absolutely am gonna be kicking back in my my beach house in Malibu, because somehow I will have stolen all of the like the songwriting credits. So I'll be sitting on that fat bank, but you'll die in poverty.
But I'll be more celebrated than you because I'll be dead.
Okay,
anyway,
well, you know what? I'll take the money.
Okay.
Anyway,
so here's the other thing about Pike
listen,
that makes me distrust him, because he's so shiny. You know, he's like a magazine cover. Is that he is another really heavy-handed almost exposition when Captain Diego of Starbase 5 comes on and says, "Pike, you and my grandmother," he said it in Spanish, and I don't want to butcher the word, are the only two who still use screens to communicate. And it's like, oh, it'll be the second to the last episode of the season, and everybody's going to go, oh, yeah, remember when Diego said that Pike only used the screen? There's something there, too.
I was wondering what that meant. Like, how else would you communicate?
The holograms, like how,
okay.
Like how Burnham communicated with Tyler, and
that was actually a very cool shot where that starts off, you know, with the holograms, and then the screen is split. Whatever. We've talked way too much, by which I mean I've talked way too much. Let's get into another one of my new segments. So sometimes we want to talk about things that happen in an episode that make no sense are so absurd, we just can't stop thinking about them. So let's go over a few that are the most noteworthy from this episode. And I got like 5 of them shits. Francine, what did you see in this week's episode that made you think, highly illogical? You like that?
I like that. Hey, there you go.
Highly illogical. Man, I do the best impressions.
I think what was highly illogical for me was how how they discovered what May really was. Stamets comes and he points that same thing that Tilly used to get her piece of that.
Yeah.
Points it was that it looked like the same device to me, you know.
Listen, girl, those props are expensive.
They're expensive, but you know, it didn't. I couldn't forgive it. Like I could forgive the original series when you could see them reusing, but I didn't understand that how he so quickly figured it out. Like Tilly is bright, Burnham is bright. Why didn't they think, let's go to sick bay and see if there's something inside you? I mean, that would have been the first stop, right? You know, why do we have to wait for Stamets? And also, I didn't get enough of Saru this episode either, by the way. And we can talk about that later.
Yeah, I'm very concerned. Obviously, next week is going to be a Saru heavy episode. You know, I know they're not going to take my sweet Saru away from me. If they do, I'm going to storm the gates of CBS Paramount, and that's that on that. My highly illogical. Thank you. I've already talked about one. Why is everyone's wig so bad?
You know,
it seems to me y'all could spend a little bit more money hooking up the Klingons' wigs. And it's profound disrespect to a proud people.
Yes, so, you know, I mean, I'm from Oakland. I can take them to the very shop they need to go to get the right hair. Okay. You know, $29.99.
You ain't even got to spend a lot of money, but you do need to spend more than $5 down in Party City because those wigs were cracking me up, and the mustaches.
Yes, you know, Burnham's hair is I'm struggling with too.
We're gonna go over that in the hair report coming up because I do have many thoughts, as I do every week, about Burnham's hair. But my second highly illogical thing: why didn't Owosakun punch Captain Pike right in his face when he called her Owu? Like, he gave her a nickname I was not cool with. Dude, don't ever in your life, don't ever fix your mouth to call a Black person out their name with some nickname you came up with. Even if you hear someone else calling them that nickname, you wait till you've been given permission. And I want to see that permission given before I'm called with Pike calling her Owu. No, her name is Owu.
Did she give him a look when he did that?
No, he didn't. And that's why I was like, nah, I'm not with it. I was like, I was about to dive through my screen. My last one is, okay, so the Red Angel that is popping up, somehow connected to the 7 signals, whatever. Is this supposed to be like a deliberate Red Dragon, Thomas Harris, Silence of the Lambs illusion? Because that image, that hallucination of the Red Angel, you know, obviously it looks like, what is it, Vitruvian Man or whatever, but also it looks very similar to Red Dragon, the Red Dragon painting from William Blake, which is a huge part of the Red Dragon book by Thomas Harris. Like, and the thing is called the Red Angel. Have people talked about this? I try not to do too much reading ahead of an episode because I don't want to, you know, be led down a way of, you know, interpretation that perhaps I wouldn't have arrived at on my own. But let me know if other people have talked about this and if this is deliberate or if it's one more thing.
Well, you know, I think, you know, there's always been the Gene Roddenberry was not a believer, but there was always a very strong sort of almost Judeo-Christian thread, you know, running through from the original series. There were always these sort of I can never say this word, omniscient, super aliens that would come in and fix things. You saw it.
Mm-hmm.
We saw the Metreon with in the original series in Arena
Mm-hmm.
that brought Kirk and the
Mm-hmm.
Gorn and into battle so that they wouldn't
Yeah.
destroy each other. And then with the Klingons, there were the Organians. And the only reason the Klingons
Right.
and the Federation had peace is because the Organians were gonna they wouldn't let them fight. So I'm just wondering, and then there, that you had a super race in Next Generation with Q and a couple of others. At
Mm-hmm.
Voyager, you had the uh, that guy that was always the groundskeeper. The form he took was the groundskeeper. What were they
Oh, right,
called?
right, right, right,
Whatever they
right,
were
right, right.
called. I think I think there even
Yeah.
was one in and you had the people in the wormhole at Deep Space Nine, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they had for you had Kess in Voyager. Eventually, grew into this super um
Right.
but so that's what I think it's harking back to that. It's going to be some um like some super alien race, might be like Q, might be like Trelane.
If Q appeared on this show, if we got even a hint of a scintilla of a little dabble do ya of John
Hmm.
Delancey, I would be
You know
so
what?
happy.
I don't think Q would bother with these people.
I don't think so either. But if there was like, and I also don't want I don't know how you would get John Delancey because obviously it's been 25 years,
Hmm.
30 years that the man is clearly aged. I don't know how Q would explain that, but now that you put that in my brain,
Sorry.
I want it. Yeah, make it
Okay.
so. All right, before we wrap up the show this week, let's finally get into it. I would be remiss if I didn't hook y'all up with this week's hair report. Okay, so my thoughts this week are once again, the hair and costuming people don't seem to want to know whether they want Burnham's hair to be 4C or 4B. We got a lot of both in this episode, and I really want someone. I don't know for sure, but I really feel as if there needs to be closer attention paid in continuity because you can tell when certain episodes were filmed, because, everything's filmed out of sequence. It's not done linearly, right? You can tell when shit was filmed based upon how Burnham's hair looks in that scene. And it's distracting because I'm like, listen, highly textured hair does not go from like twist out stretched coils down to like thick sort of coily kinky hair back and forth you know from 1 minute to the next. So someone needs to be paying attention to Burnham's hair because I can tell you it's like, oh, scene 1, scene 17, scene 34, scene 21, those were all filmed, and then you film the rest of these things. It's distracting to me.
Yes.
Work it out.
It's like they use what is
Yeah.
that black gel that you could buy? Uh, so, and it's
Yeah.
like, honey, your edges are the least of your worries with this hair.
Right. But so I was actually really happy to see those little curls in her kitchen. But it seems to me they're slowly moving away from the more severe style with Burnham, right? Like they're giving her more height in the on the top and
Hmm.
in the front. They are trying to show more defined curls there. I think we are going to start to see more of Sonequa Martin Green's own hair coming through. I think what is happening, because I don't know what's going on with the sides of her hair. I truly do
It's like they
not know.
can't
I
decide.
think what we're looking at here, no, they can't decide. I think what we're looking at here is like one of those, I can't remember the name of what it's called, but it's a wig and you just have leave out
A,
on
a,
top.
a half wig.
Yeah, like a half wig. Thank you. Like it's a custom half wig.
No, it's honey. It's not custom because you can see you can see the wig lift up in the back in those in the kitchen.
Well, right, but I mean, like custom in that, like they've clearly cut out like certain areas to try and mold it to her head. But And also like her hairline shifts. I just wish someone was just on Burnham hair duty. I'm happy to take on that role for
I
not very much
know.
money. Call me
And
CBS.
Sonequa should know better too.
I think she probably has so much else to worry about.
That's probably true.
That she's like, listen, yeah, and she's also probably like, listen, these people are ready to, mutiny any minute now with having a Black woman
That's
on
true.
screen this often, week by week. So some battles are not mine to fight, but Shanika, I will fight those battles for you. They're doing you wrong, girl. Sometimes you look so good, and sometimes it's just confusing. So I'm giving this week. It was confusing to me, but I really liked, the height they're giving her in front. I'm going to go ahead and give her a B for this week's hair report. You can agree with me or not. Doesn't matter. I'm the one on the show. All right. Let's finish up by giving our respective ratings for this episode. Francine, Ensign Third Class, where you come down on this episode?
What's my scale? 1 to 10, 1 to 5?
Whatever you want.
I'm going to go my scale, the standard 1 to 10. I'm going to give this one 6.5 because it was doing too much. It was very confusing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch it again to catch everything, and but I will give the baby head a 10 out of 10. The Klingon baby head.
Oh, that's right. And our first album is
Yes.
gonna be platinum. You know what? I agree. I'm giving it a 6.5 too. I was interested throughout, but I did just feel like there was way too much going on. And so none of the storylines got the time that they really could have used. So could have been better. Definitely not one of Discovery's worst. So
I want to give a shout out to Teg Notaro as the Jet Reno. Oh my God. I can't wait for her to come back. I love her work as a comic, and she's just cool. She's just really cool.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll see more of her.
Awesome. All right. That's it for this week. Join us next week and every week to see what's up on the USS Discovery and whether Anita can find the will to keep going. Of course she will, because I will make her. And hey, if you like the show or our main show, Feminist Frequency Radio, help us keep making it. Head over to d.rip/femfreak to become a show backer and get access to exclusive perks, or use the transporter to head to feministfrequency.com to make a one-time but very appreciated donation. If you would like to support the show, but you don't have any Gold Press Platinum, we would still love for you to rate and review it so it's easier to other folks to find it. Big thanks go out to our producer, Taylor Simmons, and Sarah Norales for technical support, and Ray Avila for design wizardry. Francine, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show and actually give the people some legit Star Trek knowledge. I have loved having you on.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, everybody, we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.